Last year, a corporate executive at this major tech firm just casually pasted some highly confidential, unreleased Q3 revenue numbers into a really sleek little chat window.
Right. And I mean, the goal was simple enough. They just wanted to generate a quick, punchy summary slide for an upcoming board meeting.
Exactly, just a standard productivity hack. But minutes later, that financial data didn't just, disappear into the ether. It actually became permanent trading data for a massive multi-billion-dollar AI model.
Which is such a common trap. You sit down at your computer and you think you're having this private one-on-one conversation with the machine.
Yeah, just you, a blinking cursor, and an incredibly smart entity on the other end. But you aren't. And today, for you listening, our mission for this deep dive is to map out the hidden multi-company maze that your data actually travels through every single time you hit send.
It really is the grand illusion of modern software design. I mean, the interface you're looking at is deliberately engineered to mimic a private text message thread.
It's super clean, it's isolated.
Right. It makes you feel like your data stays right there on your local machine. But beneath that minimalist search bar, there is this sprawling, deeply interconnected infrastructure.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if it's not a direct encrypted line between me and the AI, what is mechanically happening when you tap a prompt and hit enter?
Well, looking at the first piece of the puzzle here, it's highly fragmented.
Hmm.
When you hit enter, your data embarks on a multi-company journey across four distinct layers.
4 layers, okay.
Yeah, four. So the first layer is simply the user prompt. That's the raw text, the uploaded PDF, or, the financial spreadsheet you just submitted.
Right.
And that data immediately hits the second layer, which is the AI application. This is the front-end interface, the actual brand name on the website you visited, like Perplexity or Jasper or Gamma.
Okay, so that's the app itself. But as we know, a lot of these sleek front-end apps aren't actually doing the heavy computational lifting, right? They're
True.
essentially just white labeling the intelligence.
Exactly. They're what we call wrappers. So, moving to the next stage of the process, the front-end app takes your prompt, packages it into an API request, usually turning your text into a JSON payload, and fires it off over the internet to the third layer.
Which would be the LLM provider.
Yes, the LLM provider. These are the foundation models. We're talking about massive neural networks built by entirely different companies like OpenAI or Anthropic or Google.
And obviously running models of that size requires just unimaginable compute power, which brings us to the hardware piece of the map.
Exactly. That's the fourth layer, the cloud infrastructure. Because the LLM provider rarely hosts everything on their own physical metal. They're leasing massive server farms from cloud giants like AWS, Microsoft Azure, or Google Cloud.
So your prompt is being routed through all their digital highways.
Right. And running parallel to all of this, essentially touching the data while it's in transit, is a fourth automated system that's largely invisible to the user's safety monitoring.
Wait, let me stop you right there. I have to push back a little on the panic surrounding this whole multi-company hop.
Okay, go for it.
I mean, I get that the data is moving between an app, an LLM, and a cloud provider, but aren't these API data transfers strictly encrypted? Like, if AWS or Azure is handling the cloud infrastructure, they're using enterprise-grade encryption. So why should I care if my prompt hits a third-party server if the entire pipeline is totally cryptographically secure?
That is a very, very common misconception, and it's exactly where people get into trouble. Yes, the data is encrypted in transit.
Right, so it's safe.
Well, encryption acts like an armored truck transporting your documents across the city. Nobody can look inside the truck while it's driving down the highway. But once that truck reaches its destination, say, the LLM provider server, the data has to be decrypted.
Oh, because the AI model can't actually read a locked box.
Precisely. It has to open the box to do the work and generate your answer. And the moment that box is opened, your data is subject to the specific terms of service and the data retention policies of whichever company owns that loading dock.
Wow. So the encryption just protects you from hackers tapping the wire.
Exactly. It does absolutely nothing to protect you from the logging policies of the companies actually receiving the payload.
That makes total sense.
Oh.
So going back to our overview, it's less like a locked diary and more like ordering at a restaurant.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, like you think you're just whispering your order to the waiter who is the AI app, but your ticket actually gets carbon copied to the prep cook, the head chef, who would be the LLM provider, the ingredient supplier running the cloud infra, and a health inspector, which is the safety monitoring. And they all just keep a copy of your receipt.
That is spot on. And what's fascinating here is how drastically this corporate assembly line multiplies your data exposure.
Because they're all totally separate companies.
Right. The warehouse managers in your analogy are separate corporate entities. The front-end app might have a strict, we don't train on your data policy, but they're routing your prompt to an LLM provider who might have a policy that explicitly states they do log API requests for 30 days.
Just to monitor for abuse or whatever.
Exactly. So you are effectively, if unknowingly, agreeing to the legal policies of 3 or 4 different tech corporations with a single keystroke.
That fundamentally changes how you have to view the interface. So let's make this concrete and look at the next part of our breakdown.
Yeah.
The specific tools that you, listening right now, are likely using every day.
Yeah, because it's not just basic text generation anymore.
Right. We're seeing this massive pivot to highly specialized interfaces.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got AI search like Perplexity, writing assistants like Notion AI, and heavy-duty creation tools like Gamma or Canva AI.
Let's zoom in on AI search for a second, because the underlying mechanism there is incredibly revealing about this multi-company exposure.
Yeah, Perplexity is super popular right now.
It is, and AI search is the perfect lens for this, because when you use a tool like Perplexity, you aren't just querying a static database. The app parses your search intent, but to actually synthesize the answer, it simultaneously routes your query to partner LLMs.
So they're essentially acting as this incredibly sophisticated switchboard operator.
Exactly, and what happens is a bifurcated data trail. Your search history, your account details, your IP address, all that metadata is stored by the application provider.
The wrapper.
Right, but the semantic content of your prompt, the actual question you asked, is stripped of some identifying markers and shipped off to an external AI model. You're spreading your digital footprint across multiple infrastructures in just milliseconds.
Okay, but a search query is, relatively lightweight.
Mm.
I'm asking for a summary of a historical event or maybe debugging a few lines of code. Where this gets genuinely alarming is when we look at the AI creation tools.
Oh, absolutely. Things like Gamma.
Right, Gamma, or any platform where you're building corporate pitch decks, strategy documents. Because with these tools, you aren't just typing in a text prompt, you are uploading entirely structured files. I mean, you're dragging and dropping 50-page PDFs into the browser.
The volume and the depth of the data just change the risk profile entirely. When you upload a structured document, the front-end application has to parse that file, chunk it into smaller pieces of text, and feed those chunks into the underlying LLM to pull out the relevant insights.
Wait, so just to be absolutely clear on this, if I upload a private internal PDF into a sleek presentation builder app, the app doesn't just read it locally on my machine.
No, not at all.
It's literally breaking my proprietary document apart, packaging it up, and sending those chunks out over the open internet to a third-party foundation model to do the reading.
Yes, the wrapper you're clicking around in is just a portal. It's just a doorway to that larger hidden infrastructure. Anything you upload proprietary research notes, internal meeting transcripts, structured business data, it's actively processed by the underlying LLM and the cloud providers hosting them.
Man. Which brings us to what I consider the real danger zone. Once you understand the mechanics of this assembly line, you realize the sheer volume of sensitive material people are accidentally feeding into it.
It's staggering, and the risk formula here is simple but brutal.
It's highly sensitive data combined with multiple companies accessed through one single prompt.
Yes. And we see this happen continuously. Users routinely paste business documents, financial data, medical information, and legal materials right into these chat windows.
It's so easy.
Right. They do it because the interface feels so isolated and the productivity gains are so immediate. They want a quick summary of a contract before a call, totally unaware of the massive data flow they just initiated.
To really visualize that flow, we need to look at the 3-tiered ecosystem these tools operate within. Because the data isn't just moving laterally across the internet, it's cascading downward.
That downward cascade is the key to understanding the risk. At the very top, you have Tier 1, which is the user-facing AI tools. These are the apps you and I interact with daily, the polished interfaces.
The shiny front doors.
Exactly. And below that is Tier 2, the application platforms. This is the developer infrastructure, the middleware companies that build the connective tissue between the shiny app and the raw AI power.
Okay.
And then at the very bottom, you have Tier 3, which are the foundation models. These are the massive raw AI engines, the models like GPT, Claude, or Gemini.
Think about how wild this is for a second. Here's where it gets really interesting. It's like dropping a letter down a mail chute in a skyscraper.
Oh, I like that visual.
You slide your highly sensitive legal brief into the slot on the top floor, that Tier 1 user-facing app. But it doesn't stay there. It free falls through the floorboards. It cascades through the application platforms, routing through AWS or Azure until it finally hits the basement level.
Right, the foundation model.
Exactly.
Yeah.
People are dropping medical records and Q3 financial projections down this digital mail chute without realizing how deep into the building it goes.
And let's not forget those safety monitoring checkpoints you mentioned earlier. When your prompt cascades down to the basement, it is often intercepted by an automated semantic filter.
Which is checking for what, exactly?
It's an entirely separate algorithm evaluating your payload for policy violations, malicious code, or forbidden topics.
Oh, right. So if you've ever had a prompt flagged or rejected, that wasn't just a local error message. That was a third-party safety algorithm actively judging your input and, crucially, keeping a log of that flag.
Yes, and that log often includes your prompt, the timestamp, and your IP address. It's kept for human review to ensure the AI isn't being used maliciously.
Which makes sense for security, sure. But it means a permanent record of your query now exists on a server you've never even heard of.
Which naturally raises an important question. If this system is so inherently porous, if it's this sprawling multi-company cascade that puts sensitive data at risk, why build it this way?
Yeah, are these tech giants just carelessly hoovering up our data because it's profitable? Or is there a functional reason? I think the assumption for a lot of people is just pure malice, that it's a data grab.
It's a logical assumption given the history of the internet. But moving to the next part of our breakdown, it's actually not carelessness or pure data hoarding. It is structural. The technology fundamentally requires this architecture to work and to evolve.
Okay, how so?
There are three structural reasons. First, large data sets. AI models need massive, unimaginably large volumes of varied data just to function accurately.
They need to read the whole internet just to understand basic syntax.
Mm-hmm.
But wait, haven't they already done that? The models are already trained on trillions of words. Why do they need my specific prompt today?
That brings us to the second reason. Real-world prompts. Pristine, carefully controlled synthetic data generated in a lab simply cannot replicate the messy, unpredictable entropy of human language.
Oh, because we type terribly.
Exactly. A lab engineer asks the AI a perfectly structured query. But a real user at 2 a.m. types in half a sentence full of industry jargon, typos, implied context, and contradictory instructions. The AI has to know how to navigate that.
Those are the edge cases.
Yeah.
The weird, highly specific ways actual humans solve problems.
Right. Real-world interactions expose those edge cases. They teach the AI how language is actually used in the wild, and that leads directly to the third reason, which is continuous improvement.
Feedback loop.
Yes. The feedback loops generated from our daily interactions, like which answers we copy, which ones we ask it to rewrite, those are the exact mechanisms that help these models become more accurate, safer, and more useful over time.
So they aren't necessarily hoarding our data to be malicious. The AI literally has to eat real-world data to survive and get smarter. It's the price of admission.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the irony is really inescapable. The utility we love, the magic of the AI understanding exactly what we want, is directly fueled by the data exposure we are so wary of. It's a highly symbiotic ecosystem.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? We aren't going to change how the internet works today, and those foundation models are going to stay in the basement. So how do you protect your workflow right now before you log into your next meeting?
Well, it requires a fundamental behavioral shift. You have to move away from implicit trust and adopt a stance of active verification. And looking at the final piece of our map today, there's a specific checklist you need to run through before you type.
Okay, lay it on us.
Number 1, who operates this tool? Don't just look at the slick UI. Identify the actual company behind the app and read their specific data retention policy.
Number 2, where is my prompt processed? Knowing that the app is likely just a wrapper, you need to understand which third-party LLM is doing the heavy lifting behind the scenes.
Right, because you need to know where the data actually lands. And number 3, which is perhaps the most critical checkpoint, is this information sensitive?
Yeah, if you're dealing with business docs, financial data, medical information, or legal materials.
If the answer is yes, you must simply avoid submitting it through consumer-grade AI tools. Period. The multi-company risk is just too high.
You really have to start treating your interaction with AI not as a locked diary, but as a public broadcasting system.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us to the ultimate key question you should always ask yourself.
This raises an important question, the one you should practically have taped to your monitor. Who else sees this prompt?
Who else sees this prompt? It's such a good filter.
Because the answer is rarely just the machine. It's the app developer, the cloud host, the model provider, and the safety algorithm. Digital literacy today means understanding this hidden stack. It is the absolute first step for anyone trying to protect their data.
It's totally mandatory knowledge. So let's quickly recap the map we drawn today. We started by shattering the illusion of the private two-way chat. We mapped out the four-system data path: prompt, app, LLM, and cloud, plus those safety monitors. We looked at how tools like Perplexity and Gamma act as assembly line portals, passing your queries down that three-tiered ecosystem mail chute all the way to the foundation models.
And we explored the why, how the AI fundamentally needs our messy, real-world edge cases to grow.
Exactly. And finally, we armed you with that critical checklist to run through before you hit send. So to you, the learner, listening right now, the next time you're rushing to prep for a meeting or you have a massive spreadsheet of financial numbers and you just want the AI to summarize it.
Before you paste that data into the text box, visualize that corporate assembly line. Visualize your data dropping down into the basement.
Because once you hit send, you cannot pull it back.
You really can't.
And that leaves us with a final lingering thought for you to mull over. We know now that our real-world everyday prompts, our typos, our weird questions, our work documents are the exact raw materials required to train the future capabilities of these massive foundation models.
They need us to evolve.
Right. So does that make us an army of unpaid data entry workers for big tech? Or is this massive unprecedented leap in our own personal productivity a perfectly fair trade for our privacy?
That really is the defining trade-off of our current era.
It really is. Something to think about the next time you're sitting at your computer, about to have what feels like a perfectly private conversation.